بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
الحمد لله الذي ليس لأوليته
ابتداء ولا لأزليته انقضاء وانحسرت الأوصاف عن كنه معرفته ورفعت عظمته العقول والذي لا تواري عنه سماء ولا أرض أرضا ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على سيد الأطهار سيد المرسلين والأنبياء أبي القاسم محمد المصطفى
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى الجوهرة القدسية البتول العذراء سيدة النساء فاطمة الزهراء وعلى بعلها أمير المؤمنين وبنيها الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. لا سيما على بقية الله وحجته الكبرى الذي بيمنه رزق الورى وبوجوده ثبتت الأرض والسماء ولولاه لساقت الأرض بأهلها واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من حين عداوتهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أنا مدينة العلم وعلي بابها. A brief congratulations to all of you, respectable brothers and sisters, on the occasion of the Mawlid of Amir al-Mu'mineen wa Imam al-Muttaqeen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
One of the biggest happiness for a believer to celebrate this ni'mat which our Urafa call to be a ni'matul uzma, the greatest ni'mat of Allah, which is the ni'mat of walayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. This ni'mat of Allah empowers a mu'min to become muwahhid, a believer and worshipper of one Lord. Through the walayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, we learn the tawheed of Allah. And through the walayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, we learn the risalat of Rasulullah. And through the walayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, we learn the ma'alim al-deen, all the values of Islam, the principles of the religion, the ahkam and rulings of Islam, and the entire religion is guaranteed to survive through this ni'mat called the walaya of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. So his mother, Fatima bint Asad salamullah alayha, comes upon the command of the Holy Prophet. Prophet guided her to go to the Holy Kaaba, and she went to the Holy Kaaba and did the tawaf. Whenever we visit, we do the tawaf first. And this is not a Shia narration that says when you have a first look at the Holy Kaaba, do your dua, and whatever dua you do, the first look at Kaaba, it's mustajab. We don't have any such narration in our Shia books. This is narrated from Sunni sources, and we don't have any authentication for that. So what we do first is do the tawaf. When you enter the Holy Kaaba, the first thing we do is we do the tawaf of the Kaaba. Tawaf bil bayt salatun. The hadith says this is salat. In regular masajid we do the salat, Tahiyyatul Masjid. In Kaaba we do the tawaf. And so she did the tawaf of the Holy Kaaba. After that she stood lying on the wall of the Kaaba, exactly opposite to the door side, and this is where she said to Allah that for the sake of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the founder of Kaaba, and this baby which is in my womb. Make this easy for me. This is how it is narrated in Al-Manaqib of Ibn Shahr Ashub Rahmatullah alayhi. Al-Manaqib is one of our mother books of Fada'il and Manaqib of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So, as soon as she did her dua, the wall broke and she went inside. And Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib is the narrator. So she went inside. This is a miracle. This is not only a miracle that proves the highness of Imam Ali alayhi salam, but it is also a miracle that proves the highness of Hazrat Fatima bint Asad salamullahi alayha as well. Because if you recall the incident of Hazrat Maryam salamullahi alayha, when she goes to the house of worship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rejects her to enter. She was denied the entrance, and because that was the house of worship, it's not the place of delivery, and she was refused entrance by Allah. So she has to go outside of the limits of the city in uninhabited area. Some of the narration says she was then later on, after she was taken, after she went away from the masjid, she was miraculously taken to Karbala, and she delivered Prophet Isa in Karbala. That's one narration says that. But whatever be the case, that she was rejected and refused entry into the house of worship, whereas Hazrat Fatima bint Asad was commanded to enter, right? When Prophet is asking her to do that, this is the command of Allah. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She's invited as a special guest. Not only she's refused, this is another daleel and evidence for the taharat and spiritual and physical perfect cleanliness and taharat of Hazrat Fatima bint Asad salamullahi alayha, because the holiest place on earth, the Al-Kaaba, cannot be made najis at the time of birth if she was a regular woman. But this proves that she is not a regular woman. She is extraordinary. She's one of the most choicest women in the history of humanity. She stays there, receives the rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 3 days inside the Holy Kaaba. We don't know about those informations because that's something happening inside the Kaaba, and no one was there. And obviously every Imam, when he's born, the first thing he does is sujood, sajda. Thing number one for every Ma'soom. So Imam Ali salam did, and then the witnesses comes, so bearing witness about Tawheed, bearing witness about the Risalat of the Holy Prophet, and bearing witness about the Imamat of that Imam. So Imam Ali salam did, but he didn't open the eyes, narration says, until on the day 4 she comes out of the Holy Kaaba. If she was allowed entrance from the door, people and critics and haters of Imam Ali and opponents of Imam Ali would have said, that this is not a big deal if Fatima bint Asad went inside the Holy Kaaba to deliver, because this is an influential family of Quraysh and they can always have access to the keys of Kaaba, and they send their own lady into the Kaaba because they have the links, they are well connected, right? But she did not go through the door. Allah took her through the miracle from the opposite of the door, which is the wall. And you still have that signs of that still remaining. The House of Saud tried their best to remove the stones throughout the history, and you find there were efforts to remove those stones which has the crack, or and they replace it with newer stones, and it always end up cracking again. So they have to fill it up with some kind of things, metal or otherwise, to hide the crack, because it always cracks even if they replace it with a new stone. So you can never outsmart Allah. So now she comes out on the day 4. Prophet comes. This is the Jamal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He combines the wasi, the deputy, with the messenger. And the deputy and the messenger are always combined at the death as well. If you recall, in the wasiyyat of Imam alayhi salam, he had also said to Imam Hassan alayhi salam that when you would bury me in the grave, you'll find the plaque, law, the plaque inside my qabr. You will when you bury me, you'll find Imam Ali says actually that you'll find the grave already dug up. And the same happened when Imam Hassan alayhi salam took the janazah from Imam alayhi salam. He found the qabr, the grave already dug up. He opened it and he found there was a plaque, which was saying, "Hada ma hafarahu Nuh." This is what Nuh, the prophet, dug. So Prophet Nuh is the one, Salamullahi alayhi, Salamun ala Nuhin fil alameen, right? The only person upon whom Allah says this kind of unique way of saying salam. Salam on Nuh fil alameen. Only one person for whom Allah has said that. So Prophet Nuh is the one who has this privilege of digging the grave of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And Imam Ali said to his son that when you put me inside, you'll find me disappearing. Because whenever a wasi is put there, in other words, you lay down in the grave, Allah always combines the wasi with the messenger for whom he serves as a deputy. So Imam Ali was combined with Rasulullah, and then after a while, he was visible again in his own power. So right at the time of the birth, Allah is also combining Imam Ali alayhi salam, right? So Imam Ali, Prophet comes on day 4, Imam Ali is handed over into his lap. This is where he opens up the eyes, and the first thing he sees is the most handsome, beautiful, and the most superior face Allah created, the face and Mubarak face of Rasulullah, Rasul al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa So now when he saw the face of the Prophet, the conversation starts. Imams speak even when they are in the wombs of their mothers. Nothing new for the Masoom. But now the conversation starts, and Prophet asked him to recite. Prophet hugged him and asked him to recite from the books. Imam Ali alayhi salam started to recite from all the previous books revealed by Allah on the previous messengers, one by one. So our Sunni brothers say that a prophet is not born as a prophet. Even for Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they say that the Prophet didn't even know that he's a prophet until Jibreel was sent, and Jibreel told him, "Hey, you are the prophet." And this is where Rasulullah understood that he is the prophet. The Prophet himself never knew that he is a prophet. So how much this statement is against the Holy Quran? How much? When Allah talks about Prophet Isa, the Bani Israel, children of Israel, slandered Virgin Mary, "Ma kana abuki imra'a saw'in wa ma kanat ummuki baghiya fa asharat ilayhi." The Quran says that she indicated, obviously she was fasting, she could not speak, right? Fasting of silence. Fasting of silence, Sawm al-Sukut, is haram in the Sharia of the Holy Prophet, but was allowed in the Sharia, in that Sharia, right? So she was fasting the fast of silence. She could not speak, she indicated, and the baby starts speaking. Prophet Isa in the cradle starts to speak and said, "Qala inni Abdullah, atani al-kitaba wa ja'alani nabiyya." He said that certainly I am the slave of Allah. He gave me the book, وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا, and He made me a prophet. Prophet Isa is speaking from the cradle that he is a prophet. Why couldn't Imam Ali alayhi salam speak, who is superior than all the rest of the prophets of Allah, other than Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? His famous alqab. Yeah, and then the turn came for the Holy Quran, and this is where he recites those verses of Surah Al-Mu'minun from the Quran. Famous alqab, some of his famous alqab. Saq al-Kawthar, the one who provides the drink from Al-Kawthar fountain. Nafsul Rasul, derived from the verse of Holy Quran, from Ayat al-Mubahala. Aynullah, the eye of Allah. Yadullah, the hand of Allah, shows the power, and metaphor for the power. Asadullah al-Ghalib, the lion of Allah who overwhelms. Al-Murtada means the chosen one. And Amir al-Mu'mineen, probably the most famous one, which is taken from the hadith of the Prophet, where the Prophet said to the Ashab, Sallimu alayhi bi imratil mu'mineen, say salam on him by calling him as Amir and commander of all the faithful. Prophet said in the hadith to the Ashab, the companions, and this is where his title, Al-Amir al-Mu'mineen, was, became popular. So Imam Ali alayhi salam, in Islam, the rule of the thumb is that every position, Imam Ali serves as the deputy of Rasulullah. This is one of the khasa'is of Amir al-Mu'mineen, specific attributes of Imam Ali only. Because Imam Hassan alayhi salam, according to our belief system, is the Khalifa of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, directly, bila wasita. And Khalifa of Rasulullah bil wasita, right, indirectly. Imam Hussein alayhi salam is the Khalifa of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, bila wasita, directly. And bil wasita, indirectly, is the Khalifa of Rasulullah. So this is one of the khasa'is, specific attributes of Imam Ali alayhi salam only, that he is the Khalifa bila fasl, Khalifa bila wasita, direct deputy of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Every position in Islam is based on the knowledge, and every fadilat of Imam Ali alayhi salam is unique, but one of the greatest of all is his knowledge, because the mansab from Allah's end, every mansabun ilahi, every divine position is given based on knowledge. The higher you increase in your knowledge, the more position you deserve. The lesser is your knowledge, the lesser you deserve. Well, knowledge and taqwa is inseparable, Islamically speaking, from each other. Man amila bi ilmihi fa huwa a'lim. Our Nahj al-Balagha says, whoever acts on the knowledge is a'lim. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَعْمَلْ بِعِلْمِهِ فَلَيْسَ بِعَالِمٍ. Whoever doesn't act on the knowledge is not a'lim. Imam Ali has already said. So ilm and amal are inseparable from the Islamic perspective. So when we say al-alim in the Islamic sense of the word, it automatically by default includes the practice of knowledge. Otherwise the ilm doesn't stay, it is gone from the soul. So every mansab, coming back to the point, every divine position depends on the knowledge, and when it comes to the knowledge, Prophet has said a statement which is hadithun mutawatir in the sunnati wa shia. This hadith is the highest category of narration in the ilm al-hadith, which is hadithun mutawatir. You cannot find a category higher than that. So, أنا مدينة العلم وعلي بابها. There are a long list of references from Sunni and Shia sources both. I am the city of knowledge and Ali is its gateway. Another hadith prophet says in that ما من علم إلا وقد أحصاه الله فيا. There isn't a knowledge except that Allah engulfed that in me. وكل علم علمت فقد أحصيته في إمام المتقين. Every knowledge that I was taught, I, I put that or engulfed it in Imam al-Muttaqeen. وما من علم إلا علمته عليا وهو الإمام المبين. There isn't a knowledge except that I have taught to Ali, and he is al-Imam al-Mubin, the clear Imam. Please say salawat. Ya Ali, ana madinatul ilmi wa anta babuha. O Ali, I am the city of knowledge and you are its gateway. وَلَن تُؤْتَ الْمَدِينَةَ إِلَّا مِنْ قِبَلِ الْبَابِ. And the city cannot be arrived, cannot be reached except through the door. وَكَذِبَ مَنْ زَعَمَ أَنَّهُ يُحِبُّنِي وَيُبْغِضُكَ. And that person who claims, that person who thinks that he loves me while he hates you is lying. I repeat, Prophet said, that person who thinks that he loves me while he hates you, Prophet is saying to Imam Ali, while he hates you, is lying. Why? The reason is mentioned here. لأنك مني وأنا منك, because you are from me and I'm from you. لحمك لحمي, your flesh is my flesh. وَدَّمُكَ دَمِي. So if you kill Imam Ali, actually you are killing Rasulullah. Prophet already said, لحمك لحمي, your flesh is my flesh. What a better statement to teach us that whatever you do towards Imam Ali, actually you're doing to Rasulullah. وَدَّمُكَ دَمِي, and your blood is my blood. And وَرُوحُكَ مِنْ رُوحِ وَدَمُكَ مِنْ دَمِي, your blood is from my blood and your soul is from my soul. And also he has said in another hadith that whoever comes to the from anywhere other than the door is counted to be a thief. So if you try to access the knowledge of the Prophet from any other gateway other than accessing through Imam Ali salam, you will be counted as a thief. Imam Ali himself is the only person in the entire history who made this claim, Saluni qabla an tafridun. You will never find anybody in the history making this claim. This is again documented from Sunni and Shia, both sources. Yanabi al-Mawadda talks about that. Ya ayyuhan nas, saluni qabla an tafkhiduni. Oh, you the people, ask me before you miss me. Some of the times Imam Ali said, Inna hahuna la ilma al-jamma. That means there's a great, big knowledge here in his soul. So this is the place of the knowledge. So, فَلَأَنَا بِطُرُقِ السَّمَاءِ أَعْلَمْ مِنِّي بِطُرُقِ الْأَرْضِ, because I'm more knowledgeable about the paths and ways of heaven as compared to the paths and ways of the earth. Obviously that's his hometown, they belong to that abode. So, he has made this claim several times, and knowledge was held superior by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the Holy Prophet, by the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. When Khawarij heard that, أَنَا مَدِينَةُ الْعِلْمِ وَعَلِيًّا بَابُهَا, 10 of the Khawarij, which who had a lot of hasad and envy against Imam Ali alayhi salam. Later on, the same people, Khawarij, fought a battle against Imam Ali, right? Not these people whom I'm talking about right now, but as a generally speaking, the Khawarij fought a battle of Nahrawan. So 10 of the Khawarij discussed with each other. We're going to ask this question, one same question to Imam Ali. Let us see if he responds back with 10 different replies. We would understand that he's the Imam. Otherwise, if he cannot reply 10 different replies to our same question, we won't accept him as the Imam. First guy shows up to Imam Ali and he asks question, Al-ilmu afdal am al-mal? Is knowledge superior or the wealth, the money? Imam Ali alayhi salam replies back, Al-ilmu afdal min al-mal. Knowledge is superior than the money. And then he says that al-ilm, the reason, al-ilmu mirathul anbiya wal-mal mirathu Qaruna wa Shaddada wa Fir'aun wa ghayrihim. Knowledge is the inheritance of the prophets, whereas money is the inheritance of Qarun and Shaddad and Pharaoh and others. So, next guy among 10 of those Khawarij shows up asking the same question, is knowledge superior or the money? And Imam Ali replies back, that knowledge is superior, and the reason he gives is a different reason. So every time he's answering with a different reply. Second time he said, Al-ilmu yahrusuka wal-mal tahrusuhu. Knowledge protects you, whereas you protect the money. The one who has the knowledge, many a times you find there are people who find out 20 years of their life, 30 years of their life, 50 years of their life, they end up finding out, all these 50 years I've been doing wrong. Nobody told me. All my prayers were batil for the last 50 years. All my fastings were wrong. All the Hajj that I went for 20 times, all of them were batil. So, you can find so many examples where, you would apply what Imam Ali has said, that knowledge protects you. Al-ilmu yahrusuka wal-mal tahrusuhu, whereas you protect the money. So, the third guy shows up, asks the same question, is knowledge superior to the money? Imam Ali replies with a different reply. لِصَاحِبِ الْمَالِ عَدُوٌ كَثِيرٌ وَلِصَاحِبِ الْعِلْمِ صَدِيقٌ كَثِيرٌ. The person who has money, he has a lot of enemies. And the person who has knowledge has a lot of friends. This is so true. A person who befriends you for the sake of your knowledge has no monetary interest. It's about acquiring the knowledge of Akhirat. The fourth person shows up, asks the same question, is knowledge better than the money? Knowledge better or the money? Imam Ali replies with a different response. إِذَا صَرَفْتَ مِنَ الْمَالِ فَإِنَّهُ يَنْقُصُ. When you spend the money, it gets decreased. وَإِذَا صَرَفْتَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ يَزِيدُ. And when you spend the knowledge, you teach the knowledge, in other words, you spend the knowledge, it gets increased. Knowledge, all in Hausa, there is a principle. They say, if you study a book, you can only consider yourself that you have studied the book if you can teach it. So that's the common tradition in the Hausa, unlike in the universities, other academic environments, but that's the practice in the Hausa. Every serious-minded student in the Hausa teaches what he studies. So you study a lesson yesterday, are you able to teach the same lesson today? If yes, then you have studied it. If you cannot, then go back to the lesson you did not study yet. This is how they measure whether you have studied or not. Number 5, fifth person shows up, asks the same question, is knowledge better or the money? Imam replies with a different response. Sahibul mal yud'a Ismil Bakhil wal-La'im. The person who has money is called with the name of the miser and La'im, past, a lowly individual. وَصَاحِبُ الْعِلْمِ بِسْمِ الْعَظِيمِ وَالْكَرِيمِ. And the person who has knowledge is called with the name of great, al-Azim, wal-Kareem, generous. Sixth person asks the same question, Imam Ali replies a different response. Al-mal yuhfad min as-sariq. Money has to be protected from the thief. People have to pay rents for their safes and protect their jewelry and gold and diamond into the banks, right? So much is going on. Al-mal yuhfad min as-sariq. Money has to be protected from the thief. Wal-ilmu la yuhfad min as-sariq. And nobody can steal your knowledge, right? Knowledge is in the soul. Can anybody steal that? Knowledge is not protected from the thief. This seventh person asked the same question. Amir Mu'min alayhi salam replied with a different response. Sahibul mal yuhasabu yawm al-qiyamah wa sahibul ilm yushaffa yawm al-qiyamah. A person who has knowledge and money will be held accountable on the day of judgment. If you remember the hadith of the Prophet, Prophet had said to Imam alayhi salam, Ya Ali, ma ahadun min al-awwalina wal-akhirin illa wa huwa yatamanna yawm al-qiyamah annahu lam yu'ta min al-dunya illa quta. Oh Ali, there isn't a single person from the earlier and later generations except that he would wish on the day of judgment I would not have been given anything more than my basic necessity. So, obviously, when we have money, we are heading towards a long accountability of the day of judgment. Accountability. وَصَاحِبُ الْعِلْمِ يُشَفَّى. A knowledgeable person, when he shows up, the hadith says, it would be said to him, قِفْ تَشْفَعْ لِلنَّاسِ. A regular abid, worshipping person will be asked, انطلق إلى الجنة, go towards paradise. When a scholar would show up in front of Allah on the day of judgment, hadith says it will be said to the scholar, qif. That means stop. Tashfa' lin-nas. You do shafa'at and intercession for the people. All those people whom you guided, you have a right to do this shafa'at and intercession for those people. Eighth person asked the same question. Imam Ali replies a different response. Al-mal yandaris, the tool al-maks. Money, the wealth, decays, is ruined with by keeping it for a long time. Murur al-zaman, and passage of the time. Wal-ilmu la yandaris, and whereas the knowledge is not decayed. Ninth person asks the same question. Imam Ali replies with a different response. Al-malu yaksil qalb. The wealth makes the qalb, the soul, hardened. Money makes the soul hardened. That means the more money we make, the more qasiyul qalb we become. Unless if somebody has tazkiyatun nafs, which is not mentioned here in this hadith, but I'm just explaining to you. So the wealth, when we pile up the wealth, it makes up hardened in our hearts. وَالْعِلْمُ يُنَوِّرُ الْقَلْبِ. Whereas the knowledge makes the qalb munawwar, means luminous with the divine light. The 10th person, coming to the end of my speech, the 10th person asked us the same question. Imam replied with a different response and said, Sahibul mal yadda'i ar-rububiyyah. The person who has money claims to be the Lord. Claims to be the Lord. Rububiyyah. Tries to play the role of Rabbul Alameen. Na'udhu billah min dhalik. Right? So, if it is my center, then it will be my policy to be applied in my center. If it is my masjid, I gave the money to the masjid, it should be my policy. Because I am the Rabb of the masjid, right? If I donate the money to my masjid, then it should be my policy. This is what rububiyyat is all about. You dictate the do's and do nots to the community. What else is rububiyyat? Even the mushrikeen of Makkah, who used to worship idols, did not deny the khaliqiyyat of Allah, Allah being the creator. Even the mushrikeen of Makkah realized that Allah is the Khaliq. Why we call them mushrik? And why we denounce those people, those idol worshippers of Makkah? Why? Because they did not accept one of the major reasons. Because they did not accept the rububiyyat of Allah. They were accepting the rububiyyat of whom Abu Jahl was calling the shots and defining the do's and do nots for them, not Allah. As far as Allah being the Khaliq and Creator, even they did not deny that. So what has been controversial in the history was not the Khaliqiyyat of Allah, Allah being the Creator. Anybody who is sane can understand that much, that no effect can be without the cause until you reach the cause of all the causes, which is Allah. This is about rububiyyat. So, 10th reply of Imam Ali salam, صاحب المال يدعي الربوبية ويدعي صاحب العلم العبودية. And the person who has the knowledge claims ubudiyat and servitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before I come to the end, I would like to mention this hadith from another Sunni source where Abi Layla narrates that سمعت رسول الله صلى الله كتاب الإصابة في معرفة الصحابة. Here Abi Layla narrates that سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يقول, he did not say alihi in his narration. He's a Sunni narrator. I'm adding alihi myself. He said sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his narration. And I am saying that's salatan batra, right? Remember Rasulullah said la tusallu alayya salatan batra. Don't send incomplete salawat on me. So without mentioning the Ahlul Bayt, the salawat is rejected by Allah. Yaqul, so he says, I saw the Prophet saying, سيكون من بعدي فتنة فإذا كان ذلك فالزموا علي بن أبي طالب. After me there will be a mischief, fitna, taking place. And when that happens, فإذا كان ذلك فالزموا, then you people stick to Ali ibn Abi Talib. That means you follow Imam Ali salam and his policies and his sunnah and his path. فإنه أولى من آمن بي, the أول من آمن بي, because he's the first one who had iman on me. وأول من يصافحني يوم القيامة, and the first one who's going to shake hand with me on the day of judgment. وهو الصديق الأكبر, and he is a Siddiq al-Akbar, another stolen title, stolen from Imam Ali salam. Actually belongs to Imam Ali. He is as-Siddiq al-Akbar. That's Imam Ali's title, the biggest truth-telling and the greatest truth-telling person. وَهُوَ فَارُقُ هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ, another stolen title, that some others stole it, right? This Imam Faruq means somebody who distinguishes between haq and batil. Imam Ali is the yardstick and the scale and measure and mizan to distinguish what is haq from what is batil. So he's called Faruq. فَارُقُ هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ, that means he is the Faruq of this nation. وَهُوَ يَعْصُوبُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and he is the Ya'sub, is the leader bee. Among the bees you find there is a leader, which plays the supportive role for the rest of the bees around. That bee, which is the leader bee, is called Ya'sub. So Imam Ali salam is the supportive leader. Everyone gets support from him, and he's the one who leads. So he's called Ya'sub of the believers. وَالْمَالُ يَعْسُوبُ الْمُنَافِقِينَ, and whereas money is the Ya'sub and the supporter of the hypocrites. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to understand and practice the walayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين واخذل الكفار والمنافقين. اللهم انصر من نصر الدين واخذل من خذل المسلمين. اللهم انصر واحفظ وأيد علماءنا الربانيين ومراجعنا الربانيين، لا سيما الولي الفقيه قائد المسلمين. اللهم انصر جيوش المسلمين وعساكر الموحدين. اللهم فك عن الأسراء المسلمين. اللهم وفقنا لما تحب وترضى، وعجل في فرج مولانا صاحب الزمان، ويعلم من أنصاره وأشياعه وأتباعه وأعوانه تجاه محمد وآله الطاهرين.